It was 9:20 that the terrorist Jihad al-Shamie first approached the Heaton Park Hebrew Congregation Synagogue in Manchester. It was Yom Kippur, a solemn day of atonement, and the faithful worshippers were inside. Security stopped al-Shamie at the gates. "It's a free country," he reportedly protested, trying to get in. The devastation that followed was swift. Shamie vanished and returned 10 minutes later at 9:30, this time with a car, a knife and a fake suicide bomb. A minute later, a first call was made to the police, and 7 minutes after that, the terrorist was fatally shot.
You killed him? He has a bomb! Go away! He's got a bomb on him! Got a bomb! Mate, he's got a...
The story today, the Manchester Synagogue Attack. What happened and what next?
When I heard about the synagogue attack, I was in the office, whittling away on several projects that I've been working on. And initially, it was declared a major incident, and we heard that some people had been injured in this attack. And given the current context of what we've seen with the rise of anti-Semitism, the immediate thought was that this could be a targeted attack.
Ali Mitib, a reporter here at The Times, an award-winning general news reporter who focuses on crime, immigration and social affairs.
Well, I have experience in covering quite a lot of these major incidents. I think it's one of the most horrible that I've worked on in my 6 years at The Times.
We're talking early afternoon on Friday, the day after this incident. Shall we start by rewinding to actually yesterday and what happened?
Jewish people all around the country, all around the world, usually if they don't go to synagogue every week, they make an effort to go to Yom Kippur. It's a massive day with a lot of religious significance. And what we know is that at around 9:20 a.m, worshippers started gathering at the Heaton Park Synagogue. And a bearded man in a dark clothing watched as they made their way inside. He argued with the synagogue security, who didn't let him in the grounds, and he started telling them, it's a free country, he should be allowed in. About 10 minutes later, around 9:30, he came back with a car, a knife and a fake suicide bomb. He was driving his black Kia Picanto, and he rammed it into worshippers before crashing through the synagogue's gate. Eyewitnesses initially thought that it was a car crash. The man might have been injured, he might have had a bit of a medical episode. What we now know is that he emerged, and the second, to quote an eyewitness, the second he got out of the car, he started stabbing everyone near him. We know he went for the security guard and tried to break into the synagogue. He was in the courtyard, and a few people barricaded the door, stopping him entering. This was all while people were trying to distract him by throwing plant pots around. And at around 9:31, a member of the public called the police, and they said that they'd witnessed a car being driven towards people and that one man had been stabbed. Gareth Tung, who was driving the delivery van near the scene, told the BBC that he'd seen a man on the ground bleeding, another man in front of the car, and an armed assailant trying to break through a window. Police responded very quickly to this, and by 9:37, Greater Manchester Police had declared a major incident in the area and implemented Operation Plato, which is a set of responses by emergency services to large-scale incidents such as marauding terror attacks. If Plato is invoked, it pulls in responses from counter-terrorism specialists, firearms officers, the military, neighbouring police forces, ambulance workers and NHS trusts. And within seconds of the major incident being declared, armed police arrived.
And there's lots of video around of what happened. From what you've seen, what stood out for you?
So the video seems to have caught the police officers just after they fired their first shot.
You killed him? No, they did with him.
They were seen pointing guns at the man. He was lying on the ground outside of a synagogue, but within the gate. They issued several warnings to the attacker, and then they opened fire at around 9:30, 8 a.m. It looks like he was shot twice, once to knock him down, and again when he tried to get up, he kind of stood up on his knees, and then police started shouting at bystanders. They were kind of telling them to move back, run away. They asked someone to stay over casualties and told everyone else, he's got a bomb, go away, get back.
Everybody else, get back! If you're not involved, move back! Get away! Somebody stay with casualties! Everybody else, he has a bomb! Go away!
And you kind of hear the bystanders reacting and becoming a bit more panicked when they hear that he's got a bomb.
Mate, he's got a man, he's got a bomb on his jacket, mate. He's trying to go into school. Mate, he's stabbed him. No, he's got a bomb. Get out of here.
As they kind of repeat that to the police in their panic, you can see the attacker, who was rolling around, but now he's kind of come up and he's getting to his knees. And then there's another round of shots.
Come on! Like, shoot him!
And of course, lots of caution around him because it looked like for a while that he had some kind of bomb strapped to him. We now know that wasn't the case. So yeah. I guess that accounted for the long delay in actually confirming that he was dead and who exactly he was, because they couldn't quite get near him, it seems like.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, when the police put the information out very early on, they said that they believed he died in the instant. He'd been shot dead by police. This was something they couldn't for sure confirm because they couldn't get near the body, because they saw that there was what they thought was a suicide belt. So that took quite a while, and then bomb disposal units had to come. A bomb disposal unit arrived in the area at around 11 a.m. and they later determined that the bomb was not viable. And it was a major incident in that a lot of authorities responded to it. Paramedics arrived at 9:41. Shortly after, counter-terrorism officers arrived, armed with kind of these German-made assault rifles, which are used by American special forces like Delta Force and the Navy SEALs. And, an SES helicopter landed nearby. There was so many elements of our counter-terrorism network, of our military network, and our emergency service network, who took part in responding to this incident. And at around 5:30, GMP, Greater Manchester Police, confirmed that they had stepped down Operation Plato.
What do we know of the victims?
We know the victims who passed away were two Jewish men. One of them was called Adrian Daulby. He was 53. And also Melvin Cravitz, who was 66. Neighbours have described Adrian Daulby as quite a gentle and innocent soul who loved nature and looking after children. He was a very, very keen bird watcher, and he loved the great outdoors. He lived just a few hundred metres away from the synagogue. He was a cancer survivor. Neighbours told us that he had only recently started going back to the synagogue after his father had passed away. One neighbour told us that it was only 3 or 4 years ago that he started going again, and that they had initially spoken to him earlier on in the week, and he was actually debating whether or not he was going to go to the synagogue. Jewish friends of Cravitz told us that he was quite a chatty pillar of the community, a figure who was loved by all who knew him, and he used to attend the synagogue weekly. One couple who knew him quite well, Echelon and Hindi Cohen, they described him as a lovely person who always had a joke and was always had a smile. He had no children of his own, but he was kind of regarded as a grandfatherly figure by his wife, Karen's children, and their children too. One of the victims killed in yesterday's attack, we're not sure which one it is, was hit by police gunfire as they shot the attacker, according to Greater Manchester Police. At the moment, 3 people remain in hospital. One is being treated for a non-life-threatening gunshot wound which came from the police.
And it seems like that it maybe came through the door as the police were shooting at the attacker, and maybe they were on the other side of the door and that's how they got hit, which seems awful.
Absolutely, and a source told us that was how one of the people got injured.
In terms of what was happening behind the door as the as the attacker was trying to get in and they were stopping him from getting in. The ITV have spoken to the rabbi at the synagogue who said that the attacker was shouting, "I'm going to get you." We've also heard from Grant Shapps' father-in-law, so the former cabinet minister, his father-in-law was inside at the time.
Yeah, so Michael Goldstone, who is, like you said, the father-in-law of Sir Grant Shapps, the former Tory minister, was one of the people who played a key role in blocking the attacker from entering the synagogue. Shapps told us that his father-in-law was face-to-face with a terrorist holding the inside of the door as he tried to break down the front doors, and that, quote, the chap had turned up 10 minutes earlier, and everyone kind of locked the doors when the car crashed into the gate, which prevented more killings. They are the heroes in this. They prevented this being a much more costly, a much more destructive attack on the Jewish community.
What do we know about the perpetrator, the attacker?
The attacker has been named by police as Jihad al-Shamie. He's a 35-year-old British man of Syrian descent. His surname al-Shamie translates to the Syrian, Sham being the historic name for Syria and the Levant. So it's quite a common Syrian surname. What we know is he's of Syrian origin. He arrived in the UK as a child. He was naturalised in 2016 when he was still a teenager. He is believed to live in Langley Crescent in Prestwich in Greater Manchester, where he was often seen by neighbours in pyjamas during the day outside of his home. He often lifted weights in his garage and frustrated local residents by parking his Kia car incorrectly. His father, Faraj al-Shamie, has worked as a trauma surgeon for several non-governmental organisations in war zones such as South Sudan. So neighbours believe that the father has since moved out and away from Britain. His family today have put out a statement expressing deep regret over the attack and condemning it. So Faraj al-Shamie, the surgeon, his father, put out a statement saying that the family, both in the UK and abroad, strongly condemns this heinous act which targeted peaceful, innocent civilians. They fully distanced themselves from the attack and expressed their deep shock and sorrow over what happened and said that their hearts and thoughts were with the victims.
And his son, the perpetrator, do we know of any criminal behaviour or wrongdoing or reason to be concerned about him in the past at all?
So what we know is the suspect was not known to counter-terrorism police, according to the Home Secretary.
No, the attacker was not known to the security services. He was not known to the counter-terror police.
His name didn't appear in initial searches of police and security services records, and he's not thought to have been under current investigation. What we do know is that the counter-terrorism police are actually investigating whether he had previously made death threats to an MP over his position on the Israel-Hamas conflict. According to our sources, the Tory MP John Howell had received threatening emails in 2012 after he spoke about Israel's right to defend itself when it came under rocket attack. According to our sources, one of them was from a Jihad al-Shamie, who told him, "It's people like you who deserve to die." We understand that this letter will form part of Greater Manchester Police's investigation into the synagogue attack. Obviously, this is proceeding at pace, and all the security services and the police are trying to figure out and flesh out the background of al-Shamie to try and figure out what he did and whether he is acting independently, acting as part of a network.
And on that point, actually, that they've made arrests. I mean, obviously, he's dead, but there are people connected to him or potentially connected to this who have now been arrested.
Yeah, so on Thursday night, Greater Manchester Police that said that 3 other suspects have been arrested on suspicion of commission, preparation and instigation of acts of terrorism. They are 2 men in their 30s and a woman in their 60s. For legal reasons, they cannot be named, and it remains to be seen whether they will be charged at all for those offences.
Yeah. We've seen quite a response to all of this from the Prime Minister, from the Chief Rabbi, from various other politicians. I don't know, what stuck out for you as in terms of the response we've seen?
In terms of my view from the newsroom, it does take a major incident of some gravity for the Prime Minister to rush back from an international meeting with the heads of other European countries to chair a Cobra meeting. And Keir Starmer actually, on the tarmac, said that he would do everything in his power to guarantee the Jewish community the safety they've deserved.
The attack in Manchester this morning is absolutely shocking, and all of our thoughts are with those affected. I'm on my way back to London. When I arrive, I will chair an emergency Cobra meeting. I'm already able to say that additional police assets are being deployed to synagogues across the country, and we will do everything to keep our Jewish community safe.
And that's something we saw yesterday, and something we'll continue to see, I think, for the foreseeable. Yesterday, Keir Starmer visited a synagogue with his wife, Victoria, who is Jewish. And police patrols have stepped up outside synagogues because of this fear that there could be copycat attacks. Flags will be flown at half-mast on UK government buildings until 8 p.m. on Friday to honour the victims. And across the country, Jews have been urged to lock their doors and not congregate in groups. The UK's chief rabbi said that the attack on Yom Kippur was the holiest day. On the holiest day, it was a tragic result of an unrelenting wave of Jew hatred.
This is a very dark time, not just for Jews of Britain, but for all of our society, because this wasn't merely an attack against Jews, it was an attack against the values of our society.
Ali, we're talking about the awful events of yesterday as we record it, Friday afternoon, the attack on that synagogue in Manchester, in Heaton Park. It's a terrorist incident, the authorities have declared. What does that mean? What does that do to the ensuing investigation necessarily?
So yesterday I was outside Scotland Yard when Assistant Commissioner Lawrence Taylor, who's in charge of counter-terrorism for the Met Police, walked out and declared it a terrorist incident.
Based on what we know, counter-terrorism policing has declared this as a terrorist incident. And I want to be clear, UK policing is mobilising, and it's mobilising fast.
Currently, the UK's terrorism threat is at substantial, and that's the middle of the 5 stages. We've received no indication either way that it will move either way.
You mentioned a moment ago that the chief rabbi, Ephraim Mervis, had said that this was the tragic result of an unrelenting wave of Jew hatred. And I guess anyone who has been to, walk past, seen a synagogue in the last few many years, will have noticed the enormous amounts of security that they have to have around them, for the most part provided by this group, the CST. Just for the uninitiated, to explain who they are.
Yeah, so the CST are a British charity that provides private security outside synagogues and Jewish institutions, Jewish schools, that kind of stuff. And earlier this year, the CST was promised around 70 million security funding guarantees for the next 4 years. This has obviously come amid heightened levels of anti-Semitism and concerns from British Jews that not enough was being done to protect them from anti-Semitism, from attacks such as these, and from stigmatization in society. According to the CST, anti-Semitism has soared in the UK since Hamas carried out the October 7 attacks, which is coming up on 2 years now.
And some of those security people outside and inside the synagogue at Heaton Park were praised for their role in potentially limiting the full impact of what might have happened. The security that they provide, it's sort of what? They are sort of security guards, as you might expect, like a normal sort of private security guard?
Yeah, normal, like private security. To my understanding, they also provide some advice in terms of how to protect, how to manage any risks and how to protect certain venues. But usually it's just a security detail. And typically, each synagogue has its own security detail, which is kind of drawn from the congregation, which kind of works with an external security guard. And the security guard will often stand guard at the main gate of the synagogue while members of the synagogue are kind of stationed around. And they often kind of are seen wearing high-vis jackets and stab-proof vests. And Heaton Park Synagogue, where the attack unfolded on Thursday, always equips people with vests, according to a member of their congregation that we spoke to.
We've also had concerns about protests that have been happening as well. Thursday night, there was protests in Manchester and London, weren't there, sort of pro-Palestinian marchers, which there was some upset about, and there were also plans for further protests this weekend. What have we heard about whether they might go ahead, whether the government might be minded to not allow them to go ahead? I don't know if that's something they can even do.
The protests have been kind of a political lightning rod ever since they've started. And the timing of the protest, I believe the protest was scheduled beforehand. And the timing of it, with regards to it taking place later that night following this horrific incident, has attracted quite a lot of criticism. Our new Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, actually said she was disappointed that the pro-Palestine protests went ahead yesterday in the aftermath of such a horrific attack, and called for demonstrators to step back from their plans to hold marches this weekend.
What I would say to anybody who is thinking about going on a protest today or into the weekend, just take a step back for a minute. Imagine if that was you that had lost your father, on your holiest day. Imagine it was you that was living in fear. Just because we have the freedom to protest, and it is a British freedom, it is long-standing, it is a precious right that our people have. But just because you have a freedom doesn't mean to say you have to use it at every moment.
And said that, in her view, carrying on in this way feels un-British, and it felt wrong to do it after such a horrific anti-Semitic incident had taken place.
There's plenty more you need to get digging on, I guess. What's next for you? What are you going to be chasing next on this?
We're very keen on finding out more about Shamimi himself and find out why he doesn't appear to be on the radar of any of our security services. We need to find out why that is, and should he have been known? And if so, could this attack have been prevented?
Ali Mitib, a reporter here at The Times. That is it from us today. Thanks for listening. Our producers, Olivia Case and Micaela Arneson. The executive producer and sound designer was Taryn Siegel, and theme composition was by Maula Seto. I'm Luke Jones. See you soon.